Good afternoon, Patriots, and welcome to another edition of Occam's Razor. I'm not just some guy with a Skype and a mic. As always, I'm your host, RP. Joining me live in the studio is my co-host, M3. And we are gonna get into the swamp today. Hashtag Bishgate. If any of you have been on Twitter, you might have seen that Methods caught something incredible this morning. We're going to talk all about it. We're also going to be talking about China. DOJ has some amazing announcements. New revelations in the Ghislaine Maxwell case. Good morning, everyone. Please do me a favor. Don't forget to like and share this broadcast. Help us break through the algorithm and combat the trolls out there. That's right, I'm talking to you. I can see them sitting in the basement, surrounded by empty pizza boxes, crushed up cans of Monster, cursing the day we hit the airwaves. But we cannot be stopped. Do me a favor, guys. Sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and we'll be right back after a brief word from our sponsor. When you see what's going on in our country right now, there are plenty of reasons to be concerned. Social unrest is making life very uncomfortable, and it could quickly get worse. On top of that, a second wave of CV-19 through the Dem agenda is threatening to devastate our economy and our way of life. Are we going to have severe food shortages this time? Will supply chains get cut off if people can't work? What if we can't go to the grocery store anymore? Well, these are realistic dangers, so don't let yourself be unprepared. Here's what to do right now. Go to preparewithredpill78.com and start building your emergency food supply. The experts at My Patriot Supply are the only people I use and trust, and you can too. And right now you can save $100 off a full 4-week supply of delicious, nutritious meals the whole family will love. My Patriot Supply makes it easy to be prepared at all times, and saving $100 off a life-saving 4-week supply of food is too good an opportunity to pass up, because the second half of 2020 is going to be wild. Go to preparewithredpill78.com and get ready now. That's preparewithredpill78.com. Do it now, because when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. Sorry about that. Big ups to our friend Luke Slytalker. He just said in the chat that streams are getting axed for talking about certain individuals that I was planning on talking about. We will overcome that when we get to that in just a moment. First of all, Methods, how are you today?
I'm doing all right. Just kind of watching the internet set on fire a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, sometimes you just find things that end up going across the internet, and now it's a huge argument. We'll get into it, but I hope everybody's doing well out there in the chat. I'm excited to do another Occam's Razor.
Absolutely. I am on fire today. You have set the world ablaze, Methods, or maybe to put it more bluntly, Kimberly Halkett has set the world ablaze. When you showed me what she said this morning, you know, I was immediately reminded, so many times people have been like, why do press secretaries just come and go at such a rapid rate? And what you caught there in that morning press briefing is a perfect example of why we have so many press secretaries coming and going. Now, first of all, Kayleigh McEnany is a class act. That woman has herself poised, 100% on point. Every time that somebody tries to shake her tree, every time somebody tries to throw a grenade at her feet, she has a folder with a tab and a point and a counterpoint, and her argument is always solid. She is unflappable. I have to say, Kayleigh McEnany, and I love Sarah Sanders, don't get me wrong. Absolutely love Sarah Sanders, but you could tell that it was not always the easiest thing for her to do, to get up in front of that evil, nasty, liberal press corps. Kayleigh McEnany, though, is all smiles. She is like Miss America every time she gets up there, and I just got to say, big ups for Kayleigh McEnany. Now, I want you to tell us what happened during the press briefing this morning, because right now it's really, the internet is lit. Twitter is just ablaze talking about this. People on the left and the right, pretty insane.
Right. Well, first off, Christopher Anderson in the chat says, remind Red to use code speak and not say trigger words. I think, Christopher, I need that reminder more than Red Pill does, because I have a tendency to say those things, but appreciate it, Chris. Yeah, well, I also want to preface this story by saying, yeah, we're talking about me putting out this clip and it taking off. It's just because that's the video getting used a lot. There was already a few people kind of asking the question saying, did they hear her say this? I just figured I'd go find it. Sounded like it to me, but yeah, we'll go ahead and get into it. So she's doing, Kayleigh's doing her press conference, and she does, regular stuff, and she's talking with, what's her name? Kimberly Hackett from Al Jazeera English. Right. And they're having this back and forth, obviously, the aggressive reporter asking questions, and they're slanted and trying to correct her and talk over her. And she got her 2 questions that Kayleigh's nice enough to give some people. Typically she allows it to happen and they're over with it. And this woman is still arguing with Kayleigh. And then Kayleigh goes, well, I told you to go check this out. You just want to, talk over me. Just go look at the information. And then Kayleigh moves on. And then you hear this statement, that basically is calling her a lying. And we'll use the word bish for this conversation. Bish. But yeah, called her. She goes, okay. To me, what I heard, and I'm going to ask the chat this. I heard, okay, well, you're a lying bish. Is what... We're going to play it. We're going to play it. So everybody, right. We're going to play it. Give me a 1 if you say that, because the other argument is saying, okay, you will not engage. And that's kind of the back and forth, even though most of what I'm saying, people agree with what me and Red Pill heard. But yeah, if you want to we're going to play it. Give us a 1 in the chat if you heard it as lying bish. Give us a 2 if you hear engage or something else. All right, so get ready. We're going to play the clip originally posted by Methods, and then we're going to play a clip side by side showing Kimberly Halkett's face with increased audio, so you get an even better listen. Let's go ahead and watch.
There are questions about mass mail-out voting, and I know you don't want to hear them, which is why you talk over me. But I encourage you to read the op-ed. Yes.
On the China vaccine research, this is
very
you've
gotten 2 questions, which is more than some of your colleagues. Yes.
Thank you, Kayleigh. Okay, you don't want to engage.
There are questions
about
mass mail-out voting.
Listen again.
And I know you don't want to hear them, which is why you talk over me. But I encourage you to read the op-ed. Yes.
On the China vaccine research, this is
very you've gotten 2 questions, which is more than some of your colleagues. Yes.
Thank you, Kayleigh. Okay, you don't want to engage.
There are questions about mass mail.
I turned it up a little bit. That at the very end. Here's the thing. Here's the thing about it is that Kimberly Halkett is not the only one talking, trying to get a question in. She clearly at the very end says, okay, you're a lying bish. Now, I'm going to play you and show you the audio and video, which shows Kayleigh McEnany and Kimberly Halkett side by side. Listen to this and watch.
For a month, as you asked me about this, so I'm going to answer. So for a month, they've been collecting ballots with no postmark date, and in fact, what they found is 19% of ballots have been rejected in Queens, 28% rejected in Brooklyn. There are questions about mass mail-out voting, and I know you don't want to hear them, which is why you talk over me. But I encourage you to read the op-ed. Yes.
On the China vaccine research, this is very
you've gotten 2 questions, which is more than some of your colleagues. Yes.
Thank you, Kayleigh. Okay, you don't want to engage. In St. Louis, the McClaw...
For a month, as you asked...
I think it's even clearer in that clip. She said, okay, you're a lying bish. She had this look in her eyes, and you can look and see her jaw moving as those words come out of her mouth. We're going to watch it one more time. I'm going to go closer to the end. Keep your ears open and watch her face.
Yes. On the China vaccine research, this is very
you've gotten
important.
2 questions, which is more than some of your colleagues. Yes.
Thank you, Kaylee. Okay, you don't want to engage.
In St. Louis, the McCloskey
Okay.
for a month.
All right.
As
far as I'm concerned, that's exactly what she said. And as far as the majority of the internet is concerned, that's what she said as well. If you guys have any doubt about what was coming out of this woman's mouth, I want you to go to my Twitter timeline. I want you to go to Method's Twitter timeline. Go ahead and, put some headphones on, listen to it. I know that there's a difference between wearing headphones and listening on your computer speakers or listening on your iPhone or your Android device. Headphones, though, I'm telling you, it is so clear. She definitely said that. Now, the reason I am harping on this so much is because this is the perfect example of the hostile, liberal, leftist press corps, which the press secretary, the president, any of his representatives have to deal with on a daily basis. Her name is Kimberly Halkett. Kimberly Halkett. I also want to point out that even the Washington Post's video editor, right here, J.M. Reiger, and he says a reporter appears to have called White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany a lying bish towards the end of today's White House briefing. This is not some right-wing conspiracy. Oh, yes, I need to slow the chat, guys. I'm so sorry. I was so excited about this news. This is not some right-wing conspiracy. This is almost universal across the journosphere. Everyone believes that she said this, and it's not because we want to believe it. It's because it's clearly what came out of her mouth. They are crazy. They are insane. All they want to do is attack, and they have their narrative, and they have to get it across. And when Kayleigh McEnany, a strong, stoic, beautiful woman who is standing up for our country and our president and our American way of life, is able to control a room of essentially 4-year-old brats who haven't taken a nap and need their lunch, I think these people get really angry.
Right, and that's the part of the problem here is that if the media wasn't such savages and animals really at any presser, especially towards Kayleigh McEnany, you could watch when she first became press sec. They were all nice to her and like, yeah, we're so happy, excited for your job, congratulations. And they've just increasingly just shown, their true colors. Mm-hmm. So this happening to me, and we'll just talk under the preface that that's what she said was lying bish. That to me is par for the course. Mm-hmm. And we're kind of seeing the veil, showing in that case. So to me, I'm not surprised. I even when I heard it, I was like, whoa, wait a second, that's live television. When you really step back, you're like, this is the kind of talk that they have when they're off camera anyways. They don't like Kayleigh McEnany. You can hear it in their voices at times. They can't hide it. So I'm not surprised by all this, but the fact that it took off that quickly and just watching this happen, because it's not just us covering it. I mean, it's already pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
It is a discussion. And if anything, we were talking off air that this would definitely put a lot of the reporters on notice for any time about this stuff in the future. Like, you need to show respect or the internet's going to eat you alive.
Well, she needs to get kicked out of the press corps as far as I'm concerned. This is like Jim Acosta 2.0.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you on that. There does need to be an example made in this case. It's not necessarily, calling off with her head, but she does need to get the reprimand. She needs to have her credentials pulled. There needs to be some kind of, whatever the punishment is. I don't know what that would be. I mean, I respect it as much that they need to do something about it, but it's the world we live in, and it's how people talk, and they need to be more. They already needed to be way more professional than they are. I mean, you're in the White House, and they don't just do it to Kayleigh; they do it to the president.
Yeah.
They do it to anybody that's up there that's working with Trump's agenda and the MAGA agenda. They are rude to them, and they cut them off, and they act like they're better. And I mean, this kind of goes into another point itself. I was watching Fox News the other day, just kind of had it playing in the background, and I was watching how much, even with breaking news, and they would cut in and give the breaking news, it's becoming more and more reporters' opinions.
Oh,
you know what
yeah.
I mean? It's, you know, we already had that, but I was just watching. I gave it a good 30, 45 minutes, and they went through like 5 or 6 topics, and it was all opinion. And they just have 2 different opinions, and they put them out there. You know, they're casted as, you're going to be this opinion, and then they cast somebody else as, you're going to be this opinion, and they go back and forth. I was like, I genuinely got no substance from it, and I could have just left 30 minutes earlier because I already knew what the topic was. I got the breaking news. Let me develop my own opinion. It's so obvious the manipulation that's going on here, to where they have to steer the narrative and stuff. Just report the news and shut up. You know, that's, you really could, you could consolidate Fox News down to about an hour a day. And that's kind of being generous. If you were to just go through the news, and the other channels, you could do it in 15 minutes.
Right. Right.
So yeah, it's just, to me, there does need to be a reckoning. So, I mean, I'm kind of, you know, the disaster girl meme that we were talking about. Like, I kind of feel like that, at least with my clip being used a bunch, because I'm like, all right, yeah, let it all burn. You know, that's fine. If they want to be these kind of people, then they're seeing how the public feels about it.
Right, exactly. Now, the other thing that I want to say is that, how long ago did you post this, Methods? This was at 11:48 a.m. It's already got 334,000 views, okay? Now, somebody else in the chat said something about us doxing her. Her name is public. We're not doxing her, and I'm certainly not giving out her address. I don't know where that is. Doxing someone is releasing private information about them that is not public. So, and I also want to be very clear, I don't want anybody going and harassing this woman because of what she said to Kayleigh McEnany. I think that her reputation stands for itself, and that she is going to receive whatever is coming to her in terms of how the press corps is going to handle her after this point. Now, somebody else in the chat said that I should get a press pass. That would be so amazing. It's something that I have talked about with some people who are actually in the press corps before. There is a process, but it would require me to go to Washington, D.C., and it is, you know, I mean, that's difficult. I have a pretty rigorous production schedule here on the channel. So for me to go anywhere, it requires me to take a lot of time off. And just, yeah.
No, just real quick on the doxing thing, she's already responded, you know, so she already took claim of the statement itself, but she's spinning it in the direction of engage instead of bish. So go ahead.
Miso Mercy said they weren't serious. Okay, cool. I just want to be certain, because sometimes people say things and they mean it. So apologize for that. But, you know, there is the next story we wanted to talk about was about an actual doxing. Do you guys remember last year when some leftist agitators showed up at the home of Tucker Carlson? His family was home, but he was at work. That is just a frightening proposition. There was a mob outside of his home. His wife and the kids were inside. They were hiding in a closet, calling 911 because these people vandalized Tucker and his wife's house. They broke in. They were spewing death threats. And for the last year, they were sending letters actually stating that they were going to harm them. You know, there is absolutely nothing more frightening than having the possibility that perhaps your family is going to be harmed in any way as a result of your work. Tucker Carlson is a journalist, in my opinion. Yes, he does inject his opinion, but he also reports the news in a way that is truthful and honest. And I consider Tucker to be someone that I look up to, definitely. Well, now the New York Times is actually creating a piece, planning on revealing where he and his family now lives. As a result of that mob coming to his home and threatening to harm him and his family, they had to move. They had to sell their house. And they had to move someplace else. So now they are in a new location. Their location is not public, but the New York Times is writing a piece publicizing where their new location is for one reason only. They want them to come after him and his family. They want him and his wife and his children to feel insecure about their safety. And it's absolutely unconscionable in the modern age that this is happening. Unfortunately, this is what the left does. They can't make an argument based on their own merit. They can't beat President Trump at his game because he's doing such a good job. So the only thing they can do is go for the absolute lowest possible thing you can do. Doxing someone, putting them at risk, is it's the type of thing that the scum of the earth will do. To put someone and their family at risk, I am just completely disgusted by the New York Times. And here's the thing. If Tucker Carlson or anybody else at Fox News was to publish the personal data of anyone at the New York Times, they would be absolutely pilloried. He would be drawn and quartered in the public square, and the New York Times would come out screeching, just they would not be able to handle it. And they might even press charges. I hope that Tucker Carlson is able to press some type of stalking or harassment charge against the New York Times, because it is completely the most disgusting act I can possibly think of doing to a person. When I see people online doing this to people, wow, that's really brave of you. That's brave of you to put somebody at risk and potentially have them or their family be harmed. You know, what would have happened if Tucker wasn't there and these people showed up and they actually did harm his wife or his children? How do you think Tucker would feel? You know, beyond the fact, the loss of whatever happened to them, but the insecurity, feeling like if only he had been home, if only he had been there to protect them. I can't imagine. It's a terrible, terrible proposition. I'm so angry at the New York Times for doing this. Yeah, I mean, remember when they were doxing supporter or people that were donating to I think it was a Trump campaign, or at least 2 Republicans? They had no problem doing that, giving their personal businesses, whoever was donating, they were putting that out there and they supported it. But I mean, we understand, you know, the hypocrisy that's going on in this world. We can sit here and agree, you know, with level heads that this is, you know, it's wrong to do these kind of things, you know, but the left doesn't see it that way. They see us as the enemy. I know we talk about them as the enemy as well, but I mean, it's more should be on the platform of the politics. Keep it at that, you know, to win over people when it comes to voting and stuff. I can understand that more, but when you're talking about doxing properties to where people have to actually leave their home, that's their IRL, that's their in real life. Mm-hmm. They need to have that time and the peace. That's why Tucker goes and works. You know, obviously he loves his job. He's helping keep the narrative correct the best way. He's one of the best. If there's an argument that he is the best, I can listen to him way longer than I can listen to TikTok Hannity. But to me, it is an attack on him. And that's why a lot of people were asking us, you know, about, you know, the title of the show. And we're going to get into it a little bit more about this being, you know, an October surprise, because yeah, it's not October, but we're talking about the idea of this is the kind of things that they plan to launch and happen, because Fox News is probably going to be the only ones on TV. I know we have OAN, things like that, but they're going to be the ones that really cover what Durham does, anything that breaks like that, anything that comes out, you know, that needs to come out against whether it's Joe Biden or somebody else, the information. October surprise is the thing. It's to help sway last minute voters. We had the same thing happen in 2016 with Hillary's emails. You know, that wasn't a coincidence that went on during that time. So now we're at that point that they're going to go after the journalists like that. And so I'm not surprised they went after Tucker, because his ratings are, you know, off the charts, and he even has no problem questioning the president's narrative. Yep. You know, sometimes we have to as well. The whole, mask situation with him, one tweet, yep. And our world on Twitter was on fire one way or another. Which, just on that note, real quick, I don't care if he wears it or not. You know, if he's going into a hospital and stuff like that, I can respect it. You know, but if he wears it or not, it's not going to change things for me. You know, I still have my own decision. If we want people to have their own freedom of choice, then that extends to the president as well. Yeah, he's in a different scenario. He is, you know, the leader of the free world, but he still has the right to choose in that case. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not in the Constitution that he has to. Well, you know, and it's about optics as much as anything else. You know, I mean, if he... Okay, so you don't see President Trump going about his daily business wearing a mask like Pelosi or Nadler or any of these other people who are trying to tell us that the only way we'll survive is if we wear a mask 24 hours a day. You know, President Trump is doing it for optics at certain times. And we got to pick our battles, man. I mean, right now we're trying to get the country back open again, and we're trying to prove certain things about the genesis of this situation. I think we're very close to that. But in the meantime, do we want to have the press corps and the liberal media completely screeching and writing articles all day, every day about how President Trump isn't wearing a mask when they feel that he should? Or do we want to be able to talk about the actual things that matter? And, like I've already said, in my state, I can't, it's ridiculous. I can't go into a business without a mask. They have guards now at the doors of the stores that I might want to go into, and they will refuse you service if you don't wear a mask. And I've used the constitutional, provision before, saying that, I don't have to do this, and they just will flat out deny you service. So like, what am I going to do? I walk in like this, I pull my shirt up over my face, but I'm not going to be wearing a mask. I'm not going to walk my dogs in my neighborhood wearing a mask. I'm not going to wear a mask inside my home. If somebody comes into my home, I'm not making them wear a mask. It's ridiculous. But we got to choose our battles. If I got to buy a Monster and I got to run into the gas station, I'm not going to get into an argument with somebody about it. But I am going to talk to a police officer about it. Okay, if somebody wants to stop me and try to give me a ticket for not following what the governor says that I ought to do, I'm going to stand up for my rights at that point. I think President Trump is doing what he has to do to keep the country rolling along. We've got a lot of problems right now and a lot of things that are much more important than the ridiculous assertions of Anthony Fauci. And he is going to be exposed very soon.
I can agree with that. And Sean Anon in the chat, good to see you here, bud, said, but the point is, Methods, don't we all want to be able to constructively criticize Trump? They make it difficult by constantly attacking him. And I agree with that. If we didn't have that just barrage of attacks and just more so just like constructive criticism of the president, we should be allowed to do that. I know we call him Geodis. We call him, all these things, we look up to Trump, the memes turn him into everything, short of God. That's part of our humor. That's a part of the world we live in. But we can all realistically say he's human. We can believe he was chosen by God for this moment in time, but he's still a human making decisions. And I will, and some of the chats brought this up, he could very well just been trolling the left with that one tweet. If you read it in Trump's sarcastic manner that he does in like doing his rallies, if you read it that way, it's definitely trolling the left, but it's also showing like he's not always going to, his base doesn't control him as much as they say that it does. They try to say that we all control him. We don't. He's still the president. He's making his decisions like ever since he decided to run for president. So I'm completely fine. Okay, fine. Tweet out about it. Now, if he tweets out, I'm signing an executive order that all must wear a mask if you are leaving your home and your cars and all that stuff, then you're going to hear me tell the president, hell no. Yes. It's not going to happen. Yeah. That's it, but that's my personal choice. But he hasn't done it yet. So living in a world that he has done something that egregious, it's just counterproductive. But I can respect people being passionate about it because they deal with it. Like my state, I don't have to. I watched somebody walk into a store that had the sign that said you have to wear a mask to be served, and he sees that and he goes, oh man, he goes back to his car and gets his mask because he needed to run in the gas station maybe to get his monster addiction, just like Red Pill has. And then the lady, when he came back in, she goes, I can't enforce you. I can't make you wear it. You could have just shopped without it. We just have to have the sign up because the boss says it. But legally, they can't enforce it. Now, when you have places like Walmart doing mandates, that's their business. They're doing it. Don't go shop at Walmart. That's my opinion. I know certain things you need from that. But we're in a season of time with this mask thing that I think after a while is going to go away. And we're going to look back and talk about how crazy this time was.
Yeah. You guys, this is a great time to say thank you very much to everybody who's here. We've got just over 4,300 people here with 1.3 thousand likes. Please do consider liking this broadcast. It really helps us break through the algorithm. You can also share it on your favorite social media platform. I also need to say thank you to Kristen. She said she sent me a video on BLM lawsuit. I'll check that out. Also, my buddy Andy, what's up, man? Hope you're having a good trip. And then also, Hey Jude wanted to know what my Vista, California zip code was, and I completely did not realize it wasn't in the description. So I'm putting it into the chat yet again. It's 92083. I've also updated the description of this video. Looks like I'm going to have to go back and add it to probably a lot of videos. Pardon me. But, you know, somebody in the chat said that I'm already medically exempt because I was treated for a lung condition. You're absolutely right. I'm going to go ahead and just say that. The truth of the matter is I've only had to go into a store twice in the last, like, 4 weeks. So it's not something that I thought about all that hard. But, you know, I do go outside every day. You know, I'm consistently on a regular basis all throughout the day. I'm outside, and I have seen people wearing masks, like just walking down the street. I just think it's ridiculous. I've seen people wearing masks in their cars. You know, that's what really just blows me away, that people are just so brainwashed. Somebody in the chat also said that Hannity loves Anthony Fauci. I don't know that that's the case, but yeah, I think that there's a possibility that Sean also might be performing some, you know, some visual stuff to throw people off, logistical stuff. Because once it comes out that Anthony Fauci is a fraud and that he's steered our country in the wrong direction, he'll be able to say, wow, I've been a supporter of Anthony Fauci, and even I think whatever, you know. So something that we're going to have to just see. There is a lot of subterfuge on a daily basis, and you know, we talk about it a lot. There's so much stuff happening behind the scenes that we're not privy to, that we don't understand why it's happening, and all we can do is, you know, bring up theories and have the conversation that Methods and I are having right now. Optics. Why couldn't I think of it? Optics. Thank you very much. So, with regard to...
Before we move on, even though you took my line on how many people are watching and liking, you know, it's fine. You get this one, but you're on notice. I wanted to take that time right there to bring up Mike Bravo. We wanted to discuss it. We decided to save it for the show today. Yep. Allow, you know, the marketing is not marketing, but the spreading of the link for the GoFundMe to happen, and then kind of give it a little bit more energy today. And I have the link available. For those that aren't aware, we have a friend on Twitter, and his name is Mike Bravo. I'm sure many of you guys know, but he was feeling sick. He basically thought he had came down with the Rona or something, was trying to fight it, and then it was getting too much, so he went to the emergency room. This is how he told it to me. So if there's more to the story, I apologize. And he has a pinned tweet on his page that says he had gone there, and he goes, I was diagnosed with acute leukemia and a lung infection, and then less than 48 hours I have been admitted to the oncology, and chemo has started. So can you imagine going to the hospital thinking you've got something? At the worst case scenario, you've got the Rona, knowing Mikey's probably already developing good jokes about it in his head. And then you go there and find out, didn't you say something that it's like stage 4? I mean, he's in a late stage, and it's a serious situation. He just thought that he had the flu, but he goes in and he finds that his kidneys are shutting down and that he has leukemia. And it was a dire situation. They had to put him in immediately. Now, he's got 2 young children. He's got a wife. His birthday was coming up. His 7-year wedding anniversary was coming up. This is not something that he had planned. The good news is that he is in the hospital and he is receiving treatment. But in the meantime, he's got 2 young children who, if everything doesn't go the way that we're hoping it goes, then they're going to grow up without a father. And his wife is no longer going to have her husband. So his wife created a GoFundMe. We've been sharing it. And it's been pretty successful so far. In just, I believe this is now 3 days, we've had almost 2,100 people donate. It's up to $78,380. Mike is a veteran. As I said, he's a father and a husband. He's a true American patriot. He's a great researcher. And it's, you know, I mean, cancer of any type is insidious. Leukemia is, you know, very, very scary. It's a terrible thing. And, you know, Ad Opog wants to know why $500,000. I don't know, you know, I mean, his wife didn't say that specifically, but I mean, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I'm looking at this as a potential life insurance. And I believe with GoFundMe, if you don't reach the goal, then they still will pay out whatever it was. I don't know that it's going to reach $500,000, you know, but
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this as a life insurance policy for his children and his wife, because they're still going to have to survive after he, if he does die. Now,
which is very, very.
Go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm about to just rapid fire the link to his pinned tweet. I ask everybody, obviously, if you don't have the money, don't feel obligated to donate. It's just an option that's out there. Yeah. But what this channel will ask, and I know Red Pill's okay with me saying this, I'm about to just rapid fire his pinned tweet. Go show him some love. Go show him some support. Give him a follow. Be there, because he's going to fight through it. He even had his humor about him talking to me about this situation, because you know he wants to be a positive person. But it is a scary thing. Anybody can, going through that. So I'm about to drop his pinned tweet rapid fire. It's got the GoFundMe link in there. Just, if anything, go show him some love and support.
Yeah. So, I mean, he is undoubtedly looking at some very, very high medical bills. And, while he's not working, like I said, his family still has to survive. So, I mean, I have 241,000 followers here on YouTube. I've got 108,000 followers on Twitter. I'm sure there's a fair amount of crossover. Methods, what do you got? Like over 200,000, something like that?
It's pretty close, but I get the point that you're getting to.
If everybody just donated $1, I donated $100, okay? If everybody just donated $1, then they would be at the goal. And the idea of having to decide what type of treatment he is allowed to get based upon the cost would be a moot point, and he would be able to get the best possible treatment. Now, you see all the time, people who are extremely wealthy, they get diagnosed with something that is insane, that is a death sentence for anybody else. They get the absolute best treatment. They get experimental treatments, and they survive. They recover. Everything's okay. Somebody like us, just normal people, we're pretty much at the whim of the healthcare system. And, so I'm just looking at it like that. My dad died from cancer. He was diagnosed on August 5th. He was gone by October 6th. And he was in a very late stage when we finally figured out what it was. He started having issues in May. It took from May until August for us going to the VA to figure out what exactly was wrong and what we could do about it. And by that point, it was too late. So I'm just asking you to do what Method said. Give him some love, show him some support. Share this if you can, and retweet it. If you can donate $1, by all means, do it. Just keep him, his children, and his family in your prayers.
And Mike, if you're listening now or you hear this down the road, we love you, man. We support you. You've been a great, I don't want to even say asset. You've been a great friend in this movement. So we're all behind you. We all believe in you, and we're going to be praying for the recovery, because we believe in a creator that heals. So we're going to believe in that as much. And each day, man, just know that we're all standing by you. And if you need anything at all, you reach out without hesitation, and we'll be there for you. Yeah, definitely. There are all kinds of various alternative treatments, and believe me, I'm getting together a bunch of stuff to give him. And my guest on Saturday, Reba Cheryl, she is an oncologist by trade. She's been doing, naturopathic healing and stuff like that over the last 20 years. So I'm getting them put in touch with each other. The problem is that he's just so sick right now, he doesn't have the energy to really spend any time on anything else other than just focusing on the traditional treatment that they're putting him through right now. So, that's really all. That's really all. We're going to do whatever we can, and we're going to really hope for the best. Yeah, so thank you guys for letting us take time. I know you guys come here to hear news and stuff like that. We appreciate you guys giving us that moment to talk about it. For those that say about they can't get to Twitter, I get that. Some people don't have it, or they're kicked off because they've been spreading too much truth. I'm putting the actual GoFundMe in here, just one time rapid fire, and then we're going to move on with the show. Thank you guys for hanging out. 4,600 people, 1.9 thousand likes. We just really appreciate you guys hanging out with us today.
Yeah, thanks for being here, guys. All right, so moving on to the next topic, the title of the show, the Fox News October surprise. I'm sure everyone remembers the firing just weeks ago of Fox News commentator and reporter Ed Henry. At that time, an unspecified claim had been made against Ed. It was assumed at that time that there must have been an internal investigation done by Fox News. The claims against him apparently held enough merit for Fox News to say, we're going to have to separate here. That's if Ed has done something wrong and he is, reflecting poorly on Fox News, then that's between him and Fox News. Now, officially today, charges have been brought against Ed Henry, but also they've been brought against Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson. Here's the thing about it. When Fox News did the internal investigation into the Ed Henry situation, they also did an internal investigation into the claims against Tucker and the claims against Sean. And at that time, they were found to be baseless and without merit. Now, Ed himself also says that he had a consensual relationship with the person that is making the claims against all three of them. That would be someone named Jennifer Eckert. Now, she has a blue check mark on Twitter. I'm not familiar with who she is. Methods, do you know this person?
No, I do not. Definitely not. But just to clarify, not to speak over you, they've been accused. They haven't been charged. Hopefully everybody out there gets to that point. I don't know her. Apparently she's been on Fox News, before as kind of that's where they kind of met allegedly. But the accusations are ridiculous. I don't even know if we're necessarily going to say them here on air, but I am going to drop the Washington Examiner link right now that covers what's going on here and how we mentioned, and with the show title being October Surprise. This is coming after Fox News, because even though a lot of us, we can't stand it for long periods of time, we just hope for that moment that we get a John Solomon, a Sarah Carter, somebody from, the government being able to come and talk and give, updates on what's going on. When I see Ron Johnson and all the stuff being looked into when it comes to Burisma and Ukraine and all that, I want to hear him talk, and they're obviously not going to invite him over on CNN and stuff. So they have to go after Fox News. So I'm not surprised about these accusations, because when they put this out there, they create their false reality, that other timeline that we talk about. So here's the article one more time. But yeah, go ahead, Rippo.
So this is in the SDNY, Southern District of New York. It's Jennifer Eckert and Kathy Aru. They are bringing the complaint against the Fox News network itself, Ed Henry, Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson, and Howard Kurtz. And it's funny, the charging documents, the criminal documents, they actually say, trigger warning, this document contains highly graphic information of a particular nature. So the thing about this is that Ed Henry says he has receipts. He says that they were in a consensual relationship and he can prove it. Now, I honestly think that this opportunity is good for Ed Henry, because he was fired from his job as a result of these initial accusations. If he can prove himself in a court of law, then he may have some case against Fox News, either to get his job back or to maybe get some better type of compensation after the fact. But the thing about it is, if he's unable to, then Ed's career is done. I'm not worried about Sean. I'm not worried about Tucker. I know when I did the report initially, a lot of people were saying Ed Henry is a never-Trumper. I don't know why you're even worried about him. Well, this movement that is taking them down right now has destroyed a lot of people's lives, and that's why I wanted to cover it. I think it's a shame. I think regardless of Ed Henry's particular politics, I think he's a good person. He gave a kidney for his sister just a couple of months ago. And, I mean, there is a real selflessness about Ed, and perhaps he's misguided. Perhaps he didn't support the president when we thought he should have. But this is America, and that was Ed's choice. I certainly don't think that he deserved to get this kind of treatment. But I am looking forward to these people having their day in court so the allegations can be just smashed to smithereens.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And that goes for all sides. We need to look at it as such. The innocent until proven guilty. As much as like when we see things happen that the left gets accused of, and we immediately are like, yep, that's par for the course, we believe it. We still need to have that moment of let the evidence speak, let them have their moment in court to talk about it. And if they're proven beyond a reasonable doubt with a legitimate judge, which is another topic for another day, then by all means, we need to let that be, because that's where we have here. And I know that we're not necessarily about the cancel culture. We try to stay away from it. You know, it does kind of put a stain on the resume when they didn't do anything about it. You know, they didn't do it. So that, to me, we need to reserve judgment when it comes to Ed Henry, but to anybody that gets accused, really. Mm-hmm. You know, we make all these memes about Cold Case Joe and all that stuff, and the evidence is suspect, but he needs his day in court to really have that. Now, he does need to get pulled in and be talked to about it, and if the evidence can prove it, you know, let justice be served. Mm-hmm. But for the time being, he is technically innocent, and it hurts us to say that because it looks overwhelming, and the way that the attacks are present and all that stuff, the whole idea of karma. But at the end of the day, that's what keeps us sane as a civilization. Now, I've had people ask me for the GoFundMe for Mike Bravo. I'm going to drop it again for you guys real quick, just so you guys have it.
All right, so somebody in the chat said, I love it. You've got more viewers than Joe Biden. He's only got about 1,000 viewers. We're pulling almost 5,000. So, I mean, if that doesn't tell you what you need to know about the silent majority, I don't know what to say. Clearly, we don't need to get cocky, but we need to be confident, and we need to make sure we turn out in November for the president. So, yeah, you know, to Method's point, unfortunately, the idea of innocence until proven guilty has just kind of been dashed in this country. It doesn't matter. People get tried by the media on a daily basis. You know, something comes out, they are immediately held up as, you know, essentially being guilty before anything is allowed to hit court. It poisons the minds of potential jurors, and people in the general public, they buy into it. You know, they latch onto it, and they just say horrible things. It is a really big reason of why I don't make claims against people here on this channel that have not already been proven in a court of law. I talk about accusations, I talk about the possibilities, but just as Method said, in my mind, people are innocent until proven guilty, even in the face of what appears to be overwhelming evidence, because they deserve to have their day in court in the same way that people like us deserve to have our day in court if something like that was to happen. And I would hope that all of us would afford another human being on the face of the earth that same liberty and right in order so that their lives can be intact. And if something goes wrong, then they can go ahead and be made whole again. So we'll see what happens with Ed and Sean and Tucker. You know, another point about it, I'm sure they included Tucker and Sean because they are probably the two strongest voices on the Fox News network, regardless of whatever you think about Fox News and their politics as a whole. But those two are the strongest voices and the strongest supporters in the media, the mainstream media, for the president. So if they take them out, if they remove them from Fox News, then I would imagine Paul Ryan would probably fill those slots with some, you know, liberal garbage, and they would go 100% never Trumper.
Right, I totally agree. And somebody in the chat was, because we're talking about innocent until proven guilty, they said even Ghislaine, you know, and I imagine that's what Mimi's saying here. Well, obviously, I mean, she's been indicted. That means it's gone to a grand jury type stuff. The information is pretty damning. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, all signs once again point to that. But, I mean, in that case, to say, what if you were Ghislaine and it never happened and you were set up? That's all we're talking about here. But there are those certain ones that were like, okay, come on. You know, nobody in the public spectrum is saying Epstein was innocent. No. He hadn't necessarily been fully charged yet. So that's
he had been convicted in the past, though.
He had been convicted in the past, yes, but I'm referring to the recent situation. Right. But hopefully everybody out there gets the point that we're trying to make here. We need to have that system to keep things as balanced as they're supposed to be in this crazy world that we have, especially in 2020.
Wait a sec. William Maxwell says the Fox News accuser is the liberal Sherpa. I've seen her so many times on Tucker. Hold on. I want to make sure it's the same woman I'm imagining. That is insane. The liberal oh my God, no way. I can't believe it's her.
Well, I don't know. Oh, catch us up that we don't know, for those that don't know who that is, because I have no idea who you're talking about.
Kathy Arrow. She is the liberal that comes on Tucker's program to make the counter argument to whatever it is that Tucker's trying to say. And she's just, it doesn't matter how insane it is. She always upholds the left narrative. And I mean, I honestly thought that she was a joke. I didn't think she was a real person, not in the same way. Also, many people are telling me that Ed Henry donated a piece of his liver, not his kidney. Thank you for the clarification, guys. I appreciate it. Hold on just a second. I'm going to pull up a clip from the liberal Sherpa on Tucker. And okay, so this is let me jump ahead to it. I don't want to make, oh God, Rick Wilson. Okay, here is the liberal Sherpa, guys. You'll recognize her as soon as you see her.
And it was with silence. Well, someone you do want to hear from, who I know well, and I enjoy her commentary, Kathy Arrow is the founding publisher of Catalina magazine, and this shows liberal Sherpa, and we say that with all kinds of appreciation.
So I wonder if Fox News, I guess, didn't sign their agreement with her to continue, because she's been there for quite a few years, and she's really benefited from the exposure. I'm sure that Catalina magazine, which is apparently just a wonderful publication, I'm sure that they've got many more subscriptions from people having her on the show. She is, I'm very surprised, very surprised.
Right. I mean, for everybody in the chat, yeah, there is a thing called beauty of the eye of beholder, but I agree with you on this case. Don't
be mean. Don't be.
Yeah, I'm going to leave it alone. And Whitehead says, I thought it was a purposeful troll, to be honest. She's wild. Yeah. Okay. I get where you're coming from on this. That's the kind of obvious situation that it is a hit piece. The timing of all this mess is just, come on.
White Hat, the Catalina wine mixer. Yes, that is exactly what I think of every time I hear of Catalina magazine. The Catalina wine mixer. Oh, so many activities, guys. So many activities. Okay, where is the tab so I can close it? Okay, moving on. All right, so good news. The House has banned Chinese-owned TikTok from federal phones. The only thing I'm surprised about is that it took this long. Think about how much information the CCP was able to glean from all of those TikTok installations on House phones, whether it be people who are elected officials or their aides. Think about how many Zoomers and Gen Zs they have working there who are all using TikTok on a daily basis. All of those, mask videos in the halls of Congress. So this was as part of a defense spending bill to bar federal employees from downloading the Chinese-owned app because of national security concerns. Congressional lawmakers on Monday voted 336 to 71 to approve a proposal offered by Representative Ken Buck of Colorado. It was in the $741 billion National Defense Authorization Act. So, the only thing that I don't like about this is that it wasn't separated from the National Defense Authorization Act. I would have loved to have seen how many people in Congress were pushing to keep TikTok on people's phones, because that would be very interesting. I mean, I would imagine there's quite a few members of Congress who are actively lobbying for Chinese interests against the interest of the American public and our national security. I want to know who those people are.
Right. I mean, when you've got the House pretty much in agreement, 336 to 71 lets you know they all agree. But just, look at it this way, though. It's Chinese-owned TikTok from federal phones. Talking about even their phones. So they're like, okay, yeah, this is going to affect us as well. Yeah, let's go ahead and ban that mess. Because that is an issue of having, TikTok on phones. Because, like, for example, anytime you buy a phone now, it comes installed with Facebook. Yeah, it comes installed typically with Twitter is what I've seen sometimes too. They make it mandatory and all that. And if you have in Facebook, another discussion for another day, but if you have TikTok, which is already questionable at best, coming from a country that we can blame a pandemic, whether it's real or not, on, like this whole mask conversation that we had earlier, you could thank them for this. Mm-hmm. to have their app in everybody's pocket walking around, especially in the federal level, that's just asking for it. So the fact that, they should have never been allowed to have it to begin with, personally. But, but if this is where we are, then okay.
Oh, Real Change Q, Prestige Worldwide. I love that movie. That's such a good movie. We are one step away. This is why this is so good, because we are one step away from President Trump banning TikTok to be used at all on American devices. We just had India ban it entirely. I mentioned in my video yesterday the upcoming, movements that China is, looking to make into India. It is important for us to make sure that India and all of these other Western nations understand the threat that China poses to us as a country and to our freedom and our sovereignty. With TikTok on your devices, just think about all the things people send on their phones thinking that it's private. When the Chinese own it, I would imagine that they are putting the entire population of America at great risk. I personally don't have TikTok installed on my phone. If you have TikTok installed on your phone, I recommend you delete it. And it would probably be a good idea to wipe your devices and use all new passwords once you get in there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure everybody in the chat pretty much agrees with that. TikTok has to have their moments, where there are red pill videos getting into it. So at least there's that. But if you work a kind of job that, like our friend White Hat in the chat, even, you don't need to have TikTok around anywhere near the stuff that you're doing. But ultimately to me, TikTok is going to be something I kind of find it to be stupid. Just be honest with you.
I mean, it's a perfect example of the waning attention span of Americans. Right. I mean, I think it's really bad for people in general. People can't pay attention to something. I'm not talking about you guys. Obviously, you guys like long form programming because you're hanging out with us here. But people in general, their attention span is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And it's part of this like instant diet that people are on. They need everything fed to them in sound bites. They need everything to come to fruition immediately. They can't handle waiting for stuff. They can't handle watching something that's over a couple of minutes long, and it's a really bad thing for your brain and for society at large. People have lost the ability for to think about something for any longer than just a few minutes, and I think we need to build that back up. We need to focus on having real discussions and dissecting something, okay, and like really thinking about it. That's what I think that this research community is all about, and that's what's good. There's no nuance anymore. Everything is immediate and everything is just up in your face. People don't want to wait for it, and unfortunately, that's life. You have to wait for stuff. You have to allow it to take place in the timeline that it's supposed to, and that is a familiar refrain on our channel, isn't it?
I totally agree. Yeah, Mike Ladd, the chat says that's why memes work. We make them for the short attention spans.
Exactly.
Well said, Mike. That's exactly it. Because we talk about it a lot, and then we'll move on after this. The whole dopamine addiction that's created in social media. It makes it to where you want it quicker, you want it faster. You're going to move. It's just right there. You can literally just use your thumb and get dopamine hits.
Mm-hmm.
So it is what it is.
Yep. So moving on to our next topic, also having to do with China. So today, the DOJ and U.S. prosecutors have accused 2 Chinese hackers of stealing trade secrets and targeting American firms and European firms working on CV19 research. So they have gone after firms in the U.S., Europe, Australia, Japan, and South Korea. The Department of Justice released a press release today stating that, let's see. Oh, shoot, I lost it. Okay, so Catherine Herridge actually broke it down. That's what I want to talk. So the DOJ has indicted 2 Chinese hackers in a sweeping global computer intrusion campaign working with the Ministry of State Security. 2 hackers also went after CV19 treatments, testing, and vaccines described as a prolific threat to U.S. and foreign networks. And we do have some of the documents right here. She went through. Now, they've identified them as Li and Dong. The defendants are Li Xiaoyu and Dong Zhizai. So Dong and Li. So they are hackers in the People's Republic of China. They gained unauthorized access to computers around the world and stole terabytes of data. Lots of information. And we all know that this is the modus operandi of the Chinese Communist Party. They can't come up with anything on their own merits. They have to steal it. They steal our intellectual property. They make the cheapest possible version of whatever it is, and then they sell it back to the Western world. And they undercut us, and it is not fair. They are an existential threat to the future of our civilization. I'm going to say it right now.
Right. I mean, because it is twofold. They can be spending their time working on their own stuff to kind of take off in the tech world. But the idea of going after your enemy, making it cheaper, and then selling it to that other country undermines everything the country's trying to do. And it does help them stay ahead of the game. So it is par for the course. And that's why you have to think, however you imagine how big the problem is in between America versus the CCP, like triple it in your head, if not more. It's that big of a deal because it spreads across all spectrums of life. And this is just a part of it. So these are warning shots. You know, they picked up 2 people. We know there's way more. You could pretty much assume that they're constantly trying to get through to get to any kind of information they can. So the fact that we have the 2 on notice, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of these press conferences calling it, indicting people that are basically connected to the CCP.
Also, someone in the chat wanted to know about the post with Ray having his face crossed out. You can watch my video from yesterday. I'm going to drop that link right into the chat. Keeping in mind that each of the different shows on the channel, they're all meant to be companion pieces. So there are certain things I'll go into in more depth at my daily show at 6 p.m., and there are other things that we'll talk about here. Just make sure that you check out Red Pill News, 6 p.m., Monday through Thursday on this channel. And then, of course, we have Occam's Razor, 1:30 p.m., Eastern Standard Time, Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then don't forget about the live streams, Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, and Comfy Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern. In those 3 shows, I do interviews with people one-on-one on Fridays and Saturdays, and then Methods and I will have a comfy conversation followed by an interview/conversation with someone from the community that we find interesting. So there you go. That's the schedule. You can always be assured that that's the schedule on a daily basis.
Right. And obviously, we still got a half hour left on the show. I know we typically go over that at the end, but I guess we go ahead and mention now what we decided to work on that's going to be a monthly thing with Comfy Sunday up to the election. You want to give the news on that?
Oh, yeah, I'll be happy to. So this Saturday, the 26th, our good friend Mark Taylor is going to be rejoining us.
He means Sunday.
Didn't I say Sunday?
You said Saturday.
Oh, sorry. This Sunday, Comfy Sunday, Mark Taylor is going to be rejoining us, and he's going to be coming back the last Sunday of the month until the election hits. And then we're going to see where he's at then. He is putting in a lot of work just like us here on the channel. And then, Methods is even starting work on other channels too. So we are all probably going to be stretched a little thin by the time the election arrives. But this is the most important thing we can possibly do. We have to make sure that we have a victory in November 2020, and I'm going to be spending as much time as I possibly can making that dream a reality. Mark Taylor is just an incredible person, a wonderful friend, man of God. Cannot wait to have him back, and we are so pleased to welcome him every last Sunday of the month until the election hits.
Yeah, we talked about it after the last one, and I mean, it was obviously a big hit. It was the biggest numbers that we've had on this channel. And besides all that, it's the reason for those numbers is because of the spiritual aspect and what Mark can bring to the table and explain. And, the show's called Comfy Sunday. I'll speak for myself. I know a lot of people agree. I felt more comfier than I ever been after doing that show.
Yep.
And we talked about it afterwards. And actually, Mark made the offer, full disclosure, to do the monthly thing. So we've been chatting about it. And I know that we try to give people new things to hear about, talk about, different interviews and stuff like that, which, by the way, catch your last one with Christopher Wright. That was incredible.
Yes.
Having Mark come at the end of every month up to the election, that means that he will be on the Sunday before the election, the following week. We need to have that spiritual aspect to it. We need to be doing those things because it is a part of this battle. You see it more and more with these churches being attacked, going after God, the mainstream media talking trash about God. You're seeing this come out, real time. So we figure, why not bring Mark back and have him hang out with us once a month, and we could talk about all these things in depth.
Cycle Chris says, man, you look great. Makeup? Or what are you taking? M3 looks the same. I'm on a keto diet, and I am taking my products that my sponsor sent me. So the collagen and the Age with Red Pill. You can go to healthwithredpill.com and agewithredpill.com. I swear by those products. I'm actually taking them, and yes, I do have quite the youthful glow, and I feel great. So you can check that out. But no, I am not wearing any makeup. When I first started and I had different lighting, there was at one point where I thought I was going to have to use makeup because my forehead was so shiny, the green screen was showing up through my head, and people kept saying, you have horns, what's wrong? You've got some weird stuff on your forehead. And I tried it, and dude, I'm not that guy, okay? I can't do it. I know that it is quite common for people under bright lights to wear some like matte makeup so that they don't do the shine thing, but whatever. I just got different lights. It's way easier for me. And my vacation tan. That's right. My vacation tan, too.
Right. All right. Well, we've got about, 25 minutes left in the show. Just before we move on to whatever else, if you want to look through and pick out what you want to go over with the time that's left. Since we've been on air, or right before even, there's been a presidential action by Donald Trump. And the title of it from the White House website, I will send this over to you real quick, Red Pill, so you can have it. The title of it, it's from whitehouse.gov. President Donald J. Trump is taking action to ensure American citizens receive proper representation in Congress. And the quote from Donald Trump is, "We will collect all the information we need to conduct an accurate census and to make responsible decisions about public policy, voting rights," remember that, voting rights, "and representation in Congress." I'm going to drop this link in here for y'all. Thank you. Shout out to the chat for reminding me when it came out earlier. Nice. I saw it. I had to grab it. Yeah. So Trump's going to do something about it. And that voting rights, a little pause in the sentence about voting rights is definitely interesting because it's coming. I don't know how things are going to play out in the voting when it comes to November, how they're going to go about it, what's the plan for that. But this will be the last election that, no questions asked, there will need to be voter ID. We need to have it already, but to me, they're setting that kind of stage up right now.
That's right. I have a couple of thank yous I need to give. My buddy Kyle, thank you so much for that for that donation on Cash App. Also, Natural Lady 17 says, my title is Vice Chair for Outreach and Recruitment, but I don't know what organization that is. And then for the GOP in my hood. Okay, that's awesome. That is so great. If you have people that you could share my show with and let them know that, we have wonderful things that we can say about the president and the movement, that would be awesome. Also, Gafferanon says, gardening while listening to the show. Keck, thank you, brother. Appreciate that. And then finally, Amanda says, for RedPill78, my favorite channel where we go one, we go all. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys, man. That means a lot. Let me just see if anything came through on PayPal so that I can say thank you for that as well. Let's see. KJS Fine Arts. Thank you for that. Also, RP, I made my first video, and I'd love if you could help me share it. I'm autistic, so I tend to be more of an observer, but I felt guided to make this video for all patriots. Thank you for what you do. Where we go one, we go all. I will totally do that. Thank you, Brittany. I appreciate that. And as someone else on the spectrum, I completely understand. I am happy to help. Joanne, thank you for that. And then yesterday, Michael said, thank you for all you do. Please don't forget about James Bradley. Anxious to hammer. Oh, yes. Michael, send me another email after the show. This is definitely something I want to do. We need to get him scheduled so that we can have it on before the election. Also, Nicole and JR. After JR was on the show on Sunday, he and his wife sent me a donation on PayPal. Thank you so much, you guys. That was totally not necessary. I'm so grateful that we've met. JR is a great guy, and I was really happy to have him on the show. I definitely want to have him back. Also, on Sunday, Teresa sent a donation as well. So thank you, all of you, for helping support the channel. It means a lot. So the next thing we wanted to talk about is the situation in Portland and in other liberal cities throughout the country. Acting DHS Secretary Michael Wolff, the mayor of Portland put out a video clip stating that DHS and the federal police needed to BTFO from Portland, and made this ridiculous claim stating that until the federal police arrived, the violence was de-escalating. He said, we've been de-escalating the violence, and everything's fine. But now that the federal police are here, everybody's going crazy. And Michael Wolff basically told him that that's ridiculous and that they wouldn't be there if it wasn't for the fact that things were out of control in Portland. How many days now have they had craziness going on? It's like the mid-50s, like 54, 55, something like that?
Yeah, we're coming up on 2 months on that situation. And what the retaliation that I'm seeing from these states is an angry letter, so they're serious, from the mayors of Seattle, Atlanta, Chicago, Portland, Kansas City, and D.C., have written a letter telling them, stand down for the government, like don't send in your troops, or, the stormtroopers that they called him. So I appreciate that Wolff is coming out and saying, I don't need your permission. Mm-hmm. We'd like, because if you see the narrative that is happening here is they make the offers, they continue to make the offers, and they don't do it, and it gets worse. And then Trump's going to look like the better guy, in the situation, the high road, if you will, for saying, all right, I still need to come through and take care of our people. And I know just certain people are saying, well, what these cities are being destroyed, they still need to come through and do it. There's probably more to the story on why Trump just didn't drop the hammer in that case throughout all this. But regardless, they're not wanting them to come through, and the person making the decisions on that doesn't care what they think. If they're just evaluating, and they're going to go do what they need to with it. So I'm very happy, and I understand why he was chosen for that position.
Well, and the other part of the argument is, people say, why doesn't President Trump just send people in? There's a jurisdictional issue. So the federal police only have jurisdiction in a certain place. At the greater city at large of Portland or Seattle or wherever any of this unrest is taking place, it is the responsibility of the mayors and the local government in those areas to provide safety and security for the people of those cities. President Trump, the only other thing that he could do would be to send in the National Guard, because then they would have jurisdiction over the entire city. The federal police are only going to have jurisdiction, say, like the federal courthouse and in that area. So they're not cleaning up like the whole city of Portland, but they are protecting the interests of the federal government within the city limits of Portland. So the argument that the local government there is making is completely illogical. They have failed the people of that city, just like Oliver Queen. You have failed this city. I've been waiting years to say that on air, I'll be honest with you. But yeah. So, Michael Wolff, they don't need the invite, okay? And it doesn't matter what the mayor of Portland says or doesn't say. They have jurisdiction there. They're going to protect the interests of the federal property inside Portland. And the next thing that's going to have to happen if this doesn't get cleaned up is that's when the National Guard is going to have to come in. That's what we're looking to see. So, couple of local corruption issues. Now, you guys know we love talking about corruption on this program. We love talking about corruption on my channel. I'm called the Corruption Detector on Twitter. It's a little cheesy, but it was like the only thing I could think of at the time that I did it, and it just stuck.
So you named yourself Corruption Detector.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of something snazzy to say, and, I was like, what am I doing? I'm researching corruption. I'm a corruption detector, and I just said, okay, I just did it. So,
I always wondered. So, okay. Anybody else that was curious, you just learned something.
Y'all learned something today. So, we've talked about the order of operations to dismantle the deep state. You have like state, excuse me, you have local, then state, then federal. You've got the courts. You've got all kinds of various federal agencies and businesses and banking where the swamp exists and they've taken over and they control everything because they work in tandem. Okay, you've got a corrupt person here who's working with this corrupt person here, who's answering to the corrupt person up there, who is also answering to the corrupt people in the federal level and in the in Congress. So you have to take out the local level. You have to bring back law and order at a local level, and then you got to move up to the state, and then you move up to federal. Now, the judiciary was extremely important because you can't bring charges against any of these people if it is a corrupt judge or anybody who's corrupt in the judicial system who's prosecuting somebody that they know is corrupt as well, because they're working together, and more than likely they're going to throw the charges out. They're going to go easy on them, and they're going to allow them to continue to do the same type of criminal activities that they've been participating in for decades. So we've got an ex-New York Assembly speaker who was just recently sentenced to 78 months in prison. Now, he was convicted of these corruption charges back in 2015. And it was actually a district judge who was an Obama appointee who sentenced this man, Sheldon Silver, for the third time after previous convictions had been partially or fully overturned. So what's changed? Well, under the previous administration, conviction was overturned, and they continued to work on it. Now, I think people are understanding that if they don't play ball, if they don't go along and actually uphold the law, then, they're going to be looking at getting themselves into a massive amount of trouble as well. So Sheldon is going to prison. That is a wonderful bit of news. Now, the DOJ, the Southern District of Ohio, also today released a new press release, which is the FBI announcing charges related to a $60 million bribe to state officials and associates. This is huge. Now, it just started. The press conference just started at 2:30, so I don't have any more information about this. But another example of local and state corruption being handled by the FBI, being handled by the DOJ, and we have seen this just countless times ever since President Trump came into office. How many times in the Obama administration do you guys ever remember hearing stories about all of these local officials getting caught up in bribery and corruption schemes? I don't remember a single one. The only time I remembered anybody getting in trouble, there was a couple of Republicans that I remember getting in trouble. But now, under President Trump, we've got people on the left and the right. It doesn't matter. You don't want to uphold the rule of law. You want to break the law. You want to engage in corruption. You want to sacrifice the safety and security of the American public, our national security. You're going to pay the price. We have to take these people out from all the way up from the local up to the federal level. Congress is next. Once again, we have over 186,000 sealed indictments that still need to be brought out, and these people are going to be brought to justice. It is happening. It is just a bottom-up approach. These people are going to pay the price.
Yeah, and I was listening to it was Frank Dilly and our buddy 412 on their show, taking it back or something like that. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. They were saying how when something like this comes down, like especially in this case, you're pulling a thread, and that you don't know what's creating the situation somewhere else. So where does this lead? Mm-hmm. So when we talk about all these indictments, these sealed indictments building up, and everybody's like, well, where's the flood of them coming down? There's a systematic approach to it. Because, think about the judge that just had, her son shot by the FedEx dude, the quote unquote FedEx guy. There are these very unique and they have to be careful situations because of what can occur and what kind of evil we're really dealing with. Because since if everybody wants to say America is basically the pinnacle of the world, what happens in America affects everybody. Mm-hmm. That means that we are dealing with the most evil, when it comes to our circumstances. I know everybody else is too. I'm not trying to, shut down any of our international patriots. But we are at the crux of a lot of this good versus evil fight. And that to me is, when we hear stuff like this is great news, but take it even further. You know, if people are looking for something to investigate, take it even further into Sheldon Silver. You know, figure out what was going on with him. What happened for him to have his charges dropped twice already, and then the third time's the charm? You know, that to me, that's going to take you down the rabbit hole to understand why these things are playing out how they do.
All right. So, hang on. The next thing. All right. Well, the next case that we wanted to talk about was the one that Luke Slytalker said they're taking streams down for. So I'm not going to show this on here, but there is some new information coming out about, we'll say, the associate of Jeffrey E., who was recently arrested on July 2nd. Apparently, she paid $25,000 to man, I don't know how we're going to talk about this, to Jacob W. He's kind of a joke at this point, but Jacob W. and then what is his buddy Berkman? Yeah, Berkman's all I remember. But they were paid $25,000 to dig up dirt on the accusers of this trafficking ring, and also on SDNY, former SDNY prosecutor Jeffrey Berman. Now, it was her hope that this smear campaign against Berman and the accusers would be enough to have Berman removed or stop the investigation, but the joke's on her, because within 2 weeks of Berman being removed by U.S. Attorney General William Barr, she was arrested. She was finally arrested. That is amazing. If you guys want to know about the story related to the information about the judge and the FedEx driver yesterday, you can also watch my video. Actually, that's Mike Bravo's Twitter handle. Sorry, hold on. My video from yesterday, I go into it in detail, and I also updated the story today on Twitter. I'm going to be doing an update on that story in my video at 6 p.m. today, so tune into that, and you can get all the deets. But the situation here is really interesting, because Jacob W. he's been kind of a hitman in this way. You know, he's been used in a lot of different situations to make these claims. If you guys remember, there was some really inflammatory claims against Robert Mueller that at one point him and his buddy, the lawyer Berkman, they were supposed to be revealing these charges or claims against Robert Mueller. And they had like a detailed backstory. They were supposedly going to reveal several witnesses who had charges against Mueller. And then the whole thing just evaporated. It never went anywhere. They got a lot of people talking about it, but then it was a completely meritless case from the very beginning. And to this day, the only charge I've heard against Robert Mueller is that he's probably got early stage Alzheimer's or something like that.
Right, and I'm dropping the article because I know that Red Pill's having to dance around names. And once again, thank you, Luke Slytalker, for letting us know about it. I'm dropping it here in the chat. But that Jacob guy that's in this article, when I got on Twitter to join all this chaos that is going on, his name was everywhere. People shared him a lot. He was kind of one of those things that when you see Charlie Kirk's name get shared a bunch, or insert name here a bunch, he was always around. And then all that stuff happened where he got called out, and the stuff that Red Pill's talking about, and then he left, and he got real quiet, and I forget about his existence all the time until we saw this article, and we're like, whoa, wait a second. He's still kind of being used to just kind of be a wrench in the machine. But I didn't know anything about him before that. I just know he was shared a bunch before, he got called out on stuff, and then he disappeared. That's all I know.
Yeah, I mean, he got called out on numerous things, and I haven't seen him on Twitter in quite a long time. I want to say he also had something to do with the removal. Did he have something to do with removal of those twins, the Krasenstein brothers?
I think a lot of us had to do with having them removed. I don't remember for sure, but I just know enough complaints were filed, and they weren't like necessarily just trolling or massive, reports and stuff, like they were genuinely deserving it and needing it.
Yeah.
And now we get to deal with the misses, which, you know, I don't pay attention to. Just real quick in the chat, because I know we typically try to answer questions and stuff during this time.
Yeah.
Real Change Q is asking who's going to take over the FBI, and back into the whole X'd out picture of Ray. My 2 cents on that whole situation is, of course, just the what our favorite Anon was posting. He was talking about Flynn, and then talking about Ray, you know, and then showing the X'd out Ray, the whole sleeper conversation. It does imply that Flynn would probably step up to that role, and that would be an epic, what I call it, a Q proof, if that landed out that way. I'm not too sure at least what I got from the X'd out Ray is that he's going to be stepping down soon. We've been kind of guessing at that for a few months now.
Yeah,
I do think that he is either been a sleeper for the left or the placeholder for us, just like we said last time, you know, doing the HR department work on the FBI to fix things on the inside, you know, quietly, and then him step away, and the version 2 of the Trump administration is going to be somebody else. You know, I'll take a Flynn, I'll take a Grinnell any day of the week for that position, but I'm not going to say straight up, you know, our favorite Anon told us that Flynn is going to be FBI director. We don't.
That's right. Yeah. Hey, I see L Tresac is in the chat. What's up there, L? Good to see you here. So yeah, like I said, I went through a whole bunch of information in regards to that yesterday. There was a controversy about General Flynn changing his background. I show some data related to that. Also, I mean, I personally do think that Ray has basically been a glorified HR director during his term as the director of the FBI. And from what those posts prior to the General Flynn post were indicating to me is that General Flynn could possibly be the next director of the FBI. And how glorious would that be? How glorious would it be for him to lead the very organization that previously tried to destroy him? He would be in the just best possible position to root out any additional corruption or nastiness taking place there at the FBI. So I'm hoping that that's what that is. Definitely.
Right, no, but Grinnell's gonna be somewhere. You know he's going to be used.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
Sure.
Grinnell would be a great choice, too. But I think that it would be sweet justice for General Flynn to be the director of the FBI.
Yeah, either that or taking over the clowns.
Yeah,
to decimate it single-handedly, because they definitely played a role in going after him.
Yeah. So, you know, any position that he could gain inside the intelligence community, I think that it would be to the benefit of the American people. I would definitely be, very, very supportive of that. That would be a great thing. Somebody says, has anyone heard that there are Chinese troops in Mexico posing as MS-13? I heard from several people that BP have identified several Chinese MS-13 members crossing the border. I haven't heard that, but I did hear something yesterday after my report on China at the end of the video, that China and MS-13 are working in a collaboration together right now. That China is, we know that China invented fentanyl. We know that they injected it into the American public, as a type of, drug weapon. China is apparently also producing large amounts of cocaine for the Mexican drug cartels. And, you look at that video, after President Trump and the DOJ rounded up a whole bunch of different MS-13 members and leaders, and then Lopez Obrador also commented on it. MS-13 put on quite the spectacle of showing off their military-grade weapons and outfits and vehicles as a direct message to Lopez Obrador and to President Trump. Now, you have to ask yourself, who provided all of that equipment? It makes sense to me that it very possibly could have come from China. Especially if they already have a pre-existing relationship producing the drugs, which of course they are shipping here into America. On one hand, getting money for the distribution of the narcotics. On the other hand, destroying the American people at the same time by trapping us in cycles of addiction.
Yeah, and there has been plenty of evidence shown that China is very well working below the border.
Somebody says China did not invent fentanyl. Am I thinking of carfentanil? There was I read an article not that long ago about a Chinese scientist talking about this. Hang on. I might be carfentanil, and you're right. Hang on.
Hey man, the chat will keep you honest.
Yes,
I'll tell you that. You guys are great out there, and I know some people are heading for the door. If you guys don't mind, just clicking the thumb blue if you haven't already on the way out. I hope you guys have a great day. It's been a lot of fun here chatting, man. I definitely had a good show today. And Thursday, just to let everybody know, I'll announce the official date of Woke Society's and I's show on Thursday here on Occam's Razor.
Okay, now I was wrong on both of them. Carfentanil and fentanyl were both invented by Janssen Pharmaceutica. So I'm sorry, guys. There was some other research chemical drug that came out of China. I saw an article about a Chinese scientist saying that they produced it as a weapon. But I mean, I guess maybe it's just that they are producing a lot of it there with the idea of exporting it into the American market. But thank you very much for correcting me. I appreciate it. All right, guys. Thank you once again, everybody, for being here. Thank you to the mods for keeping the chat comfy. Do me a favor, please hit that like button as you leave, and then be here tonight at 6 p.m. for another edition of Red Pill News. Methods, thank you once again. Love you guys in the chat. Good luck. God bless. We'll see you at 6.
Much love, everybody.